Hi, welcome to Limitless Learner. I'm Decal, and this is a vlog about unlocking human potential and pushing the boundaries of our comfort zones. About a month ago, I created an experiment called 2 Weeks as a Titan, where I would take on the daily routines, habits, and mindsets of titans and personal heroes. I started off with Richard Branson. You can check out the links below to see that episode. And after Richard Branson, I decided to take on my personal hero and also the Philippine national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal. There are several reasons why I chose Jose Rizal. Like I mentioned, he is a personal hero. I was actually born in the United States. When I was about 8 years old, I very suddenly moved back to my homeland, the Philippines. The challenge with moving back was I was treated like a foreigner in my own land. So there was a deep thirst, even at a young age, to figure out who I am and find ways to connect to my motherland. One of the things that I discovered was Jose Rizal. In the beginning, it was very superficial. We shared the same birthday, and that was something I already knew. So that was something automatic for me that I felt like, oh, I have a connection to this guy. Aside from that, he was also very small. Jose Rizal is known for being about 4'9", and I grew up as a very small kid. Actually, when I was growing up, I got bullied a lot for that. Finding someone who was very, very well respected despite his size was something that really inspired me. And of course, aside from my personal reasons, I would later find out that he was also just generally a badass. He was a writer, an artist, a sculptor, a teacher, an engineer, a doctor, a surgeon, a scientist, an athlete, and also considered the country's father of comics. It was hard not to idolize a person like Dr. Jose Rizal. And of course, the more I learned about him, the more intrigued I became. He wrote his first book at 26. He was exiled from his home twice. And this was all before he was martyred at the age of 35. So how did Dr. Jose Rizal's day look like? There's only so much you can capture in the letters that he wrote, but there is a lot of evidence and a lot of detail about his exile in Dapitan. This was his second time getting exiled, and this was a very influential part of his life before his execution. So looking at this, what did I need to do? Number one, much like the Richard Branson weeks, I needed to wake up at 5 a.m. Two, after he would wake up, he would spend some time working on agriculture. Third, he would spend his days working and teaching, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to operate on people. That's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is focus on my work and, of course, my teaching. Four, after work, he would get back to agriculture. And five, after he did his final check on his plants, he would get back to studying, reading, and writing. Another reason why I took this on was because in my last episode, I found myself complaining a lot about traffic. And one of the things I discovered when I was researching about Rizal was during his time in Dapitan, he actually dedicated a lot of his time to solving problems in his community. I found this is a really important detail. You need to remember that this was his second time getting exiled. He was roughly 30 years old. He was far away from home, thrown to a small foreign town that would be very, very different from the lifestyle he was leading while he was studying in Europe and writing his books. But what he did is he ended up draining out marshes to lower the cases of malaria. He built lighting systems out of coconut oil, developed an aqueduct to improve the agricultural systems. And there is me, complaining about traffic, something I deal with on a daily basis. So one of the things I wanted to take on, dealing with a problem within my community. And this is one of the reasons why I chose Rizal. Later, I'm going to talk about my 3 big wins. I'm adding on my 3 big failures. I'm also going to talk about the unexpected things I learned and, of course, my big insight. So here is Rizal. It's roughly 12:40. I really need to get a handle on this accidentally deleting videos thing. I recorded it earlier this morning to talk about breakfast and the fact that I didn't get to tend to any plants because I have no plants to tend to, which is one of Rizal's habits. I'm pretty excited for later in the afternoon because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to spend some time on agriculture. just finished planting, about 450. This is going to be an exercise of patience. I haven't planted or done anything agricultural for a really long time. I'm really out of practice. I felt a little bit out of my depth after such a long hiatus, so we'll see how things go after 2 to 3 weeks and see if things actually start to grow. Yep, it's going to be an exercise of patience. I'm worried about my plants. It's been raining. I'm worried. 8:05 a.m. I think one of the main differences that I'm starting to notice without the morning exercise, the morning seems a little bit incomplete. I don't have a full farm to tend to. I only have like 2 pots. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm about to start some work. It's like it felt like a really slow morning. I am here having lunch with Patch of the Spark Project.
Hello.
And we're talking about crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, and the power of community.
And life.
12:26 a.m. I am tired but fulfilled. I'm struggling with the conflict of having to sleep early, so I need to wake up at 5 a.m. I think one of the things that I really need to consider is being flexible with this and making it work versus making it a hard, fast rule. To not be attached to the routine, but the mindset and the intention behind it. Whoever thought that 8:58 a.m. would be considered sleeping in for me. 8:42, checking my plants. I'm a little worried about them. I may have dug the initial hole too deep. Now I'm worried they won't germinate. We'll see what happens over the next few days. Spending the evening studying, which was what Rizal would do. He would dedicate his evenings to writing and reading. I have finished my Portuguese lessons for the evening and my Portuguese goal using Duolingo, and I spent a little bit of time writing. This time I have gotten a little bit better at using this, and I wrote some poetry using Filipino, which is not my first language, so it was a little bit of a challenge, but I liked taking it on. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm reading a book that is highly recommended by my friends. Shout out to Shayna and Patch for suggesting this book, Profit First. It's really giving me a lot of insight on how I'm running my business and how I may want to run it in the future. It's 6:47 a.m. I feel like I've only been touching the surface of the Rizal weeks. So today I'm going to take it on to really embody Rizal the teacher. I'm going to be spending my morning in a flurry of getting in touch with education groups, especially with Upstart. With that clear intention, I am here to educate and I'm here to expand people. Turned 2 o'clock. I'm here at Upstart's first workshop of the year. I'm going to be taking on the hat of coach. 10:45 a.m. and I just noticed something. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Things are growing, guys. Things are growing. 3:09 p.m. studying Portuguese and walking Einstein with Frida. It is week 2, 8:03 a.m., and I think I need to take the Rizal weeks to the next level. I think Primo is dead. Primo's dead. It's 7:30. Time to say a silent prayer. It is 8:05 a.m. After further investigation, I found out that Primo, Soilborn, first of his name, was murdered. So I have made some precautions. Time is at 11 o'clock. It is the murderer. We have found Primo's murderer. Here at my alma mater, DLSU, or De La Salle University. This week has really been a week of pondering, persistence, education, learning, unlearning. I'll talk more about it at the end, but it's really been crazy the fact that I've been to both of my alma maters within the last 2 weeks because of the Rizal weeks. Alright, let's get down to it. What were my 3 big wins and insights? One big win has to be the studying and the reading. I do read and I make an effort to always keep a book on me, but keeping this as a habit was something very new in these Rizal weeks. I really dedicated time for study and reading. I ended up finishing a book that has greatly changed my perspective about my business, and I started a new book, Conjugal Dictatorship, which tackles the dictatorship of Marcos. And I found it very apt to be one of the books that I started reading during the Rizal weeks, especially because Rizal was very conscious about social injustice. Aside from that, I got to study Portuguese again. One thing I did not mention in the very beginning was Rizal spoke 22 different languages. So I thought it would be great to just focus on one for now, which is Portuguese. And according to Duolingo, now at the end of these 2 weeks, I am 40% fluent. Great win here wasn't like I had to give up social media or give up my free leisure time. With all of the apps and technology that's out there, it really just takes a little bit of time set aside to make sure that these things happen. My second big win, and you probably saw this in all of the videos, was my plants. I love my plants. It was great planting and being my own little urban farmer. And I think the main thing that really taught me was patience and perseverance. I didn't think I would learn so much from the process, especially because I used to plant when I was younger. But going through this process actually had me see the real importance in delayed gratification, and also learning how to deal with challenges. I didn't expect that my firstborn son, Primo, would be murdered by a snail. So my advice actually is anyone who's taking up entrepreneurship or jumping into a project, you should better build the habit of planting. You're gonna learn a lot. Third, for me, was really reconnecting powerfully to education. During this entire process, really embodying Rizal, I made an effort to reach out to schools and spend some time with students, which was very fundamental to the work I'm doing. From actually only talking to a handful, I ended up connecting with over 5 different schools over the course of this week and running different workshops, which really goes back to one thing that I remember Rizal saying, which was, without education, today's slaves would just become tomorrow's tyrants. And he was really an advocate for equal access to education, which was very unheard of in his time. Now, my failures. I did not follow the 5 a.m. wake-up time. It was something that I really struggled with even more. And I think that was more because I found that my schedule would always end up late, especially with the work that I do. And I think right now what I'm trying to do is find a balance of the intention of this exercise and the hardcore details of the routines. The social good project. I did not get to create time to actually execute my plan. I created a framework on how to do it, but I need an entire day to gather the data and actually another 3 days to maybe sift through it. On the other hand, I actually had meetings to talk about developing parks and other social good projects for my community. But one thing, again, that I realized, especially with my planting and my agriculture, it's really about patience. I think one thing I realized is that Rizal, he spent 4 years in Dapitan. I still have some time and I'm not giving up on those projects. And third, I would say it was the martial arts. One of the things that were really appealing to me was the fact that Rizal was an athlete, and I did not get to take advantage of that. I got to exercise a little, but I did not give ample time to really help build my existing skills or learn new ones. I wanted to try out fencing. That didn't happen. I also wanted to go fire a pistol. That might seem so random, but one of the things that I found out while reading some of the letters was that while Rizal was in Dapitan, he got in an argument with someone about business. In the end, he heard that person said something bad about him, so he challenged him to a duel. That person who said something bad about Rizal would later receive a letter from the military commander of that town. He told that man that you would have no chance in a field of honor against Rizal. He is a known martial artist and a duelist. I wanted to get into that, but that didn't happen. One cool, unexpected thing that happened, and you may have noticed, is that the second or third day, I wanted to take on dressing up sharply. One thing I noticed the more I would research is you would never find an image of him or a depiction of him where he is not well dressed. And dressing up that way and dressing up intentionally became an exciting thing for me. It also made me feel better and become more confident. And this is something I have forgotten to do in my life. It also became a great conversation piece. So the big insight, there is still so much to learn. I say this because as Filipinos, we are legally required to learn about Rizal, and we have an entire course dedicated to him in college. But all of the stories that I've found, all of these interesting anecdotes were things that were never taught to me. And I thought I already knew Rizal. I would give tours in his museum, I would tell of his story. There was still so much more for me to discover. And I think this is not just for Rizal, but about other heroes in my life, and if you're listening, heroes in your life. Understanding how they thought, what they were going through. There's so much value in it. And going through this experiment 2 weeks as a Titan, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. So those were my 2 weeks as Rizal. I've already chosen my next Titan, thoroughly inspired by her recent speech. I have chosen Oprah. You can read more about the other reasons why I chose her. You can see my previous episode in the link below. And if you do want to see the next Titans that I take on, please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.